So Andrew, what will and I'll cut this part obviously. What we'll end up doing is maybe talk about our games of the year, just the games we like throughout the year, maybe what we look forward to in 2018, and then whatever other story you feel like was a big story in gaming. Like I told Daniel, maybe like the Switch, how much it sold. That's pretty big stuff for there, but just whatever kind of comes to mind because I don't have a run sheet or anything like that. So, but definitely like best games of the year, maybe a disappointing game of the year, something like that.
Okay.
Stuff like that, just regular kind of end of the year stuff.
That sounds good. I do have a little bit of work I'm doing, which is why I'm not looking at you.
Okay.
So I may have to like just bow out here and there along the way, but
okay, sounds good.
It's mostly just kind of sit and watch, so I should be okay. But just
okay. All right. All right, we'll start in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to this special episode of the Monsters of Geek podcast. I'm your Chief Aaron. With us today, we've got Andrew, Daniel, and Joe here, and we wanted to kind of do this is kind of as Daniel said, an unnumbered episode of the podcast. We'll look at wanted to kind of do some 2017 wrap up episodes in what we like throughout the year. The first one we're going to do is video games because we're all gamers here, and I think if you've listened to the podcast before, you know this. And we're going to try to do a movie one. We'll see if we can get everybody together for the movie one as well. But wanted to kind of do some special episodes and not necessarily. We're still trying to figure out what we want to do for episode 50. So this is just an episode that we talked about last episode. Maybe doing some special kind of spin-off episodes, and this is going to be one of those things. And but it's a big year. 2017 in general was a big year for a lot of us in a lot of ways, but definitely in video games. We've discussed throughout a lot of the podcasts about how 2017 may be one of the, if not the best releases as far as games and consoles and news that we've seen in quite some time. So, but yeah, so we're going to jump right into, like I said, not a regular episode. So we're just going to jump right into some of our thoughts on 2017 and what they meant to video games this year. So, so first of all, I want to ask. I mean, we're not going to go into what we've been doing, but how you guys been doing? It's been a while since we did the last episode. Everybody doing all right? Cold is very cold in Virginia. Yes,
it's cold everywhere, the whole freaking country except LA.
If we are located, most of us in all of us in Southwest Virginia, and it has been ridiculously cold, and it's supposed to get even colder as we move in. I think Sunday we're supposed to get a little bit of a jump. I was joking with somebody the other day that if we can just get up to 30, I'll do the I'll do the rat dance like they do in the Muppet Christmas Carol. Heat wave. This is me island in the sun. Because it's been in the teens and lower. I think it was like somebody said it was like 6 degrees when they got in their car this morning. So it's been pretty frigid. But yeah, so guys, like I said, it was a big year in video games. Andrew, let's just go ahead and talk about some of the big news that we feel like really made 2017 special, whether it be like a game announcement or something that you guys feel like we should touch on. Daniel, was there any like big gaming news that you felt was something that was huge for you or anything like that?
I was making a few notes, just some of the big, and I guess it wasn't necessarily huge for me personally, but some of the big news that came out this year. Well, the first thing that hits me personally was the everything going on with Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Mass Effect Andromeda came out in
probably
February or March.
Yeah, March. Yeah,
April.
Yeah, maybe April.
It came out before Persona. You're right. It's March.
Yeah, I think so. The month before Persona. Yeah. And I still haven't. I played it a little bit. Still haven't got enough into it to tell you whether or not it's a good game. But I know I'm pretty sure it's better than the internet was making it seem. It just got completely panned, but certainly panned by fans and the community, and very disappointing because basically EA put Mass Effect on hold indefinitely and said we're not going to, we're just taking a break from Mass Effect and shutting it down. So that's very disappointing for a franchise that frankly was one of the top franchises of the last generation. So that was disappointing for me. That was one of the biggest pieces of news that I thought of just when we were talking about, what meant to us or what was the big news this year.
I think the big thing with that was, it was released. I think it was talked about at E3 the year before. It was kind of a surprise. And they brought us. It wasn't really even a gameplay. It was just kind of like this girl waking up. It was like Mass Effect and Andromeda, and I was like, "Oh man, this is so awesome!" And I'm not a huge Mass Effect fan, but I knew there was something up. As video game fans, and we watch releases, it's much like movies. If a movie's released at a certain time frame, it's like, oh, they're just trying to get that out. Nobody's going to watch it. They know it's going to be a loss. It's just, and I think it was released. I'm not mistaken. I think Horizon came out, and then Zelda came out, and then not shortly thereafter, Mass Effect came out, and then it was Persona. And you look at that kind of thing where you had arguably 3 of the best games of the year coming out, and then all of a sudden EA's like, I think we'll just kind of slip this in between them right here. And if Mass Effect was going to be a good game, you would think that they would pick a date where nothing else will come out, where everybody's really excited about that one game. And when you look at the release, I was like, man, there's something up with this. Like, this is weird. Why would you want to release this? Like, you're the 3rd out of 4 really big games. I'm not for sure why you want to release that here. And lo and behold, it didn't really fare well.
Well, I remember us talking about it was going to be delayed. Mm-hmm. Andrew, I think we talked about it, this is going to be delayed, but this isn't coming out in March. It's going to be delayed a few more months.
I didn't believe you when you first said it, but then you convinced me.
I was shocked it came out when it did. And I don't know if you guys read it, but I got Jason Schreier, who wrote a great article talking about all the problems with the game, all the problems with development, and a really interesting read. And it's just disappointing, just sad.
Kudos to Schreier, though, for hearing his first name and knowing what his last name is, who you were talking about. Props to him for that. It's a good year for him.
Voorhees.
Oh, well. Yeah. I mean, he's a good company if he's with Voorhees. That's not half bad. So for me with that one, and I played like a hot minute of Andromeda. My problems with it were that it was ugly. The gameplay hadn't developed enough, and I was coming off of Zelda, which is a challenge in and of itself. Like, for me personally, and I know other people had a different experience with it. For me, playing Horizon off of Zelda made Horizon worse, and Horizon is awesome. So going to Andromeda from Zelda was rough. So yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda, probably the last effect. And
I see what you did there. I'm
thinking we might get a remastered Mass Effect trilogy this year.
Maybe. I think that would be definitely something, goodwill for how bad Andromeda was overall. But it may be something where, very similar, and EA tends to have a track record with this. They did the same thing with Dead Space. If you look at Dead Space, Dead Space 3 came out. It was just, they suspended indefinitely. We haven't seen it since. And I don't know. I would like to see like an HD remake. I never played those games, but if it was HD remake, I might jump on and actually try them out. I don't think it's maybe too soon. I don't think they're trying to just kind of push it aside, much like they did Dead Space. Because Dead Space 2, like I've said before, is probably one of the best games I've ever played. It was so polished. It was great. Everything was really good. And then 3 just went way downhill, almost like the Andromeda stuff did. So EA's pretty good about when they're going to put something on hiatus, it's either gone forever or at least for a very, very long time. And I hate that because both those series are great. It's just, it's really bad taste in the fans' mouth. I mean, both of those left pretty bad taste in everybody's mouth. So I don't know if it's next year, I don't know this year, Andrew, coming up, but maybe like late 2018 they announced it into 2019, and then maybe have something else there too. I'm not really for sure.
You mean the remake?
The remake, yeah.
I don't think it would come out this year, but I feel like they might announce it just to make us. I would love that. If I could play 1 without the bugs and with the far superior gameplay of 3, I would be all over that. It would be a day one purchase unless it was just a complete hot mess performance wise.
I think EA Giant Bomb did their marathon list for, and they do it great, and it's great discussion. But I think biggest disappointment. I think all went to EA. Like their top three was Mass Effect, was a killing of Mass Effect. The loot boxes was one of them with the Star Wars Battlefront. And then there was one more, Visceral, the Visceral closing. And basically they ran the whole category. So it hasn't been a great year for EA in general, unfortunately. Minus their sports games, which Madden seems to be pretty good this year, and so is FIFA. But other than that, they haven't done great there.
Yeah, I think wasn't it Visceral that was working on the Star Wars game? Was that did I make that up?
Yeah. And there's been conflicting stories. Some people say Visceral was just not getting the job done. It was a little bit of a mismanagement, and then EA releases a statement that didn't really hint at that they wanted to go a different way, which would be sounds like more loot boxes. Maybe not now because of the government stepping in, but it seems like they just wanted to go a completely different way with it. But to go a completely different way with it and then shutting down the developer tells me that there's something else kind of there, whether it be EA the bad guy, Visceral's bad guy, or maybe a mixture of both. I don't know, but it was just it sucks that people lose their job, but it sucks that Visceral was on such a high with the Dead Space stuff, and then they just kind of went away.
It's a bummer.
It is.
I'm starting to think that I thought EA would put good. I don't know why I thought this. It was naivety on my part, I guess. I thought EA would put good studios on appropriate Star Wars projects, and really all they've done is use Star Wars projects to close studios. So,
basically,
well,
yeah.
We all thought that. I mean, that was the buzz. They're going to make great Star Wars games. We're going to finally get, the new Battlefront. We're finally going to get, great single player experience. Who knows what they'll do? And it just hasn't worked out yet.
Hey,
they'll do what they always do, which is not make enough money.
Right.
Besides the loot crate, I mean, Battlefront 2 was fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard mixed. Joe liked Battlefront 2. I haven't heard a lot of other people. I know it's super, super pretty. I know it was an extremely short single player. I think it was like, Joe was at 3-4 hours. It wasn't very long.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
I think that's what turned a lot of people off. EA just, I think they're throwing in on a lot of multiplayer stuff, and maybe they're getting away from that single player experience. But they just did not have a good year. I think that just as a company in general, not just a gaming company, I mean, they had a lot of issues. Just as a publicly traded company that I would be concerned about if I owned stock or anything. They just did not have a good year.
I felt that this Battlefront was a lot better than the last one that came out. At least it was more polished and gave us more gameplay opportunities.
Right.
Space battles, hero battles. At least there was a single player mode in it this time, even if it was short.
Yeah, it just seems like EA has the right way, and then they do something dumb, and it's just a lot of negativity coming out of EA, unfortunately. So, and at least
they earned it.
And that's what I was going to say, Andrew. It's cool to hate on EA because they're so big, but I think they definitely earned it. This year.
I mean, the stuff that they did, I mean, it's one thing, like you said, Daniel, to hate on them because they're big. We do the same thing with Activision, but Activision for a while was kind of shooting themselves in their own, in their own foot there. EA's pretty much chopped off its own foot at this point. Like and I didn't realize it until they started discussing it. And one of them was like, you guys do know this is all EA stuff, and you don't realize it because you're like, Madden and FIFA. And first of all, you don't expect a big company like that to have so many missteps. But once you discover, man, all this stuff, look at, and these are significant things. I mean, you're talking, especially the loot crate thing is now a government situation where they're saying it's gambling and everything else. I mean, that's a huge. I mean, video games don't want government intervention. That's why they created the ESA, because they didn't want the government intervention. And now EA's open ESRB. There you go. And then And then the EA does the loot box, and now the government's right back in it. So now they're going to have to figure something out there. So it's just been a weird year for EA, just a bad year all the way around for them.
Yeah. So you hit on Activision. So let's just go ahead and talk about the mess that Destiny 2 is. I mean, I'm assuming we've talked that one out, right?
Yep.
We're good to move on. So, Schreier again. reported back in 2016 that Destiny 2 underwent a significant direction change, a year before it was due to release, which is never a good sign. As it turns out, the campaign of Destiny 2 ended up being pretty good, but the rest of it has been a super hot mess. My friends and I expected to 100% give it another shot, try to get back into it, go back to that daily grind of, they scientifically researched for Destiny 1 how to get people basically into a feedback loop so that you have reasons to come back daily, reasons to come back weekly, certain rewards, certain ways. They had a reward loop going so that that was literally specifically studied and designed to hook you and keep you coming back and keep you playing their game. And for Destiny 2, it's like they forgot all that research existed. It was a mess. But as a result of that, Activision got a lot of hate because there was some microtransaction, drama, because what game doesn't have microtransaction drama these days? Answer: Mario Odyssey, Zelda Breath of the Wild. There are others. I'm just, just carrying water for my two. But anyway, Activision was getting a lot of crap for that. And as it turns out, Bungie is maybe just as poorly mismanaged as Activision is, because Activision gave Bungie the green light to use microtransactions to make up money because they couldn't support the DLC model that they'd originally set out for, according to Schreier, and not the other way around. It wasn't Activision saying, you must put microtransactions in this game, but actually Bungie we need to put microtransactions in here because, as it turns out, the video game industry as it is right now, and this is another point Schreier has made independent of this, is not sustainable in its current form. The way it's going right now, it is not a sustainable business.
Yeah, I mean,
it takes too many resources and too much.
Yeah, time. And we talk about movie making and how much movie, the stuff. I mean, you look at some of these budgets, and then you look at like physical game sales and what they make off of it, and it just doesn't add up. And I'm with you, Andrew. Like, I don't mind. I mean, I'm not going to buy anything in game technically, but they're going to have to do something to make it up. And I could totally see why a company be like, man, looking at the bottom line, we're going to be in red no matter if we sell this many copies. That's going to be, it's going to look successful, but it's really not making us any money. We're going to have to figure out some other way to supplement that, get back up towards the black.
Yeah. And then again, at the same time, it's like, or just make something people want to buy. And
sure,
it turns out that works too.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think any of us are fans of microtransactions, especially ones that in games such as Destiny that can get you ahead. And I think those are the ones that are, But what's a microtransaction?
For the most part, that wasn't a problem in Destiny.
Oh, that's good. Okay. But I think definitely in until they changed it. As far as being able to buy characters and how much it was going to cost to in-game currency to get them, which was going to be a ridiculous grind to be able to do. It's just, and I'm with you, Andrew. I think we're going through growing pains in the industry that they're trying to figure out ways to both make money and make us happy. And I don't think we're going to see that, not even the next year, trying to figure this out, how we're going to make the consumer happy and fair, that's what you're offering, but also be able to continue to make video games that we all love. So it's going to be kind of a weird transition, I think. Are we done with that one? Everybody good with that one?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So Joe, what news story kind of jumped out at you this year?
I know it won't come out this year, but it was announced that Blizzard's bringing out vanilla again with World of Warcraft Classic.
This is what you've been talking about for the last 4 months, like ever since it's been released.
I know, right?
He's like, oh, I'm back. It's back in my veins.
Yeah, put the needle in the vein again. Don't turn into a Warcraft head.
That's how I felt about Destiny 2, man.
No, I don't think Blizzard can mess this up though, because all they're gonna do, well, I hope not anyway. Hoping just do a graphic mod and then keep the gameplay the way it was.
Which is
Blizzard's good at making games. I wouldn't worry about it too much.
That's true, especially World of Warcraft games. This is big, Joe, because didn't they shut down a server that was kind of keeping that alive, Rod?
They shut down a server, and there's another one that's popped up. But there's a lot of people, me included, that once they got so far into the expansions, I mean, it got too easy.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a reason to, like Holly, it took me. Of course, we had a crappy E-machine computer, but it took me a long time to get to level 60 because I had to get a new computer because the E-machine quit. But you just don't get that same experience that you got when you first got it. And to a lot of people, that's what I fell in love with. A lot of people, that's what they fell in love with.
Well, I mean, let's not be too hard on the E-machine here because you was asking it's kind of like a Civic trying to pull like a horse trailer. Like it's just not really going to work, and it was up a hill. So it was.
That's true.
We should have put it out as misery after the first time you tried it, but
it done well. I have to say, it got me to level like 20. So
did well. I'd walk in there and he'd be playing. It was just like the frame rate would just completely drop. Like it was like there'd be nothing on the screen but his character. And it was just like it was like somebody just flushed all the graphics down the toilet. It was just left his character. It was pretty bad.
I told you it's like a drug. No matter, you have to get your fix.
I've had games like that. I remember when I was playing. I've never had a good gaming computer, but I was playing the original Knights of the Old Republic on on my laptop, which was basically school use only. It was like this is for word processing and nothing else. And I can remember going through like certain levels and having to turn the camera just a certain way to where I didn't get like stuff in the background stuff in the background wouldn't load, so I could actually move my character from one place to
another. So Joe, I mean, it's pretty exciting for you guys. I'm sure Kip and some of those other guys are pretty excited about it as well. But you put in a lot of hours into that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it feels like I put years into it. So, but yeah, I'm pretty excited. I think it's gonna be awesome. To actually see a company that kind of put something in that people wanted, like people that put a lot of money into it,
right?
Finally do something and say, hey, if y'all want this, we'll give it to you.
Now, are you gonna have to start over with this, or can you still import your player from like your other plays? Or
I don't know. I haven't really saw it. I mean, I'm guessing the level cap will probably be 60. I don't know if you'll go all the way to 100 because there's not enough there. I mean, that was made just to go to 60. I think you might have been able to jumpstart to 70, but yeah, I mean, I think it'd just be the basic level 60.
Yeah.
All the old raids, stuff like that.
That's cool.
Epic gear. Yeah, I remember, dude, seeing people get their like top tier epic. It was awesome, and now it's just so easy to do. Like it's not like everybody has it. Like if you saw somebody back in the day with all their epics, you're like, dude, that dude's a grinder. Like he knew what he had to go through to get it. So.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm glad they're bringing. I know they brought back StarCraft earlier this year, like the regular StarCraft 2, I think, which everybody was pretty stoked about. So Blizzard doing throwing it back old school for some of their fans. So that's pretty cool. We go from EA to Blizzard, two separate sides of the spectrum there as far as what they're doing.
And companies not making money to a company that is pretty well off.
Right.
No.
Thanks to microtransactions. No, yeah. They also make good games though. But they also
Andrew, was Destiny 2 yours?
No.
Okay, go ahead with yours.
I think the success of the Switch is a big deal. I was
going to talk about that too.
Yeah. They announced this morning that it's the fastest selling console in U.S. history in its first 10 months. I forget what the number of million copies was, but just sad because normally I remember numbers. But fastest selling console in the country in U.S. history. Now, that's not worldwide, where I imagine. I don't know what would beat it. Maybe PS4, maybe the Wii. I don't know. But the success, like hearing other gaming podcasts have their end of the year podcast and talking about this, and hearing everyone basically say on my Switch, I've been doing this on Switch. Guys that travel say, I've got the game of the year with me in my pocket, and it's super easy to just take it, and I can play it on the plane, and it's exciting. It's refreshing, really, to have Nintendo not suck.
Andrew had 4.8 million units sold in the United States since March.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty darn good, yeah.
But it's just refreshing, and I think another important point is that it gives Sony somebody to compete with, because Microsoft just can't seem to pick themselves up off the ground.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said, Andrew. I've actually, since the Switch came out, I was talking to you last night, and I just finished Horizon, and I was wondering what I would play on my PS4, because really all I've been playing is a Switch, and there's so many other good games besides the ones like Mario and Zelda, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but all the independents, all the indie games that were big, a year ago are now coming to Switch. The new ones are coming to the Switch. And there's just so much good content. And that's something that, with the Wii U, we really didn't get. We didn't get no content with the Wii U. And now we come to the Switch. And not only is Nintendo doing their own stuff to supplement that content, but they're being what the Vita was, a very indie friendly, hey, we want your independence on this title. We want it on the Switch.
Yeah.
And they've done a fantastic job with doing a great job between major releases, supplementing them with pretty major indie releases throughout the year.
The Switch has a stat library, right?
Sure does.
Yeah. It to be 10 months old, especially, probably stronger than the PS4 had in its first 10 months.
Yeah, most definitely. I agree 100%. Yeah.
I mean, how bad does it have to suck for the people that made like Horizon, to have put an awesome game out that would have been head over heels game of the year, then Nintendo drops it. Yeah, then Nintendo drops the Switch, and you get Zelda, and it's like, okay, yeah, we lost.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about those two games a lot on this podcast, because there's a lot of things to say about both of them. But I'm with you, Andrew. That was my big thing, was the Switch. I just think that it's been amazing, to be able to play console game, not a stinky port to a smaller system, not something with something that doesn't have the hardware to push certain games. I mean, this is, and what they've done on the screen. I mean, I've showed it to friends, gamers, and I think Nintendo is just Nintendo. They never want to play Nintendo games anymore. They'll look at the screen like, oh, this is like a console game. I was like, I know, I told you guys, this thing can run really well. People kind of had some issues with. I know there's some frame rate issues with Zelda, but the thing about it is you're going to pack it in a small package. You're going to have some issues, and they'll work through it as they kind of go. This is new hardware, just like everything else is. But it's been amazing what Nintendo has done. I mean, you talk about a bounce back year, and a successful year. Of course, the Super Nintendo, the Mini, and the NES Mini, and all that stuff that they've done. But the Switch has been absolutely amazing. Just really kind of, it opens up gaming so much more for people that maybe don't have time to, or maybe just casual gamers that like to play. Really kind of, in the lack of a better term, I guess, really kind of appealing to hardcore gamers because of the games you have, the games we grew up with, and the games we like to play. But it's also appealing to, the cell phone users that like that quick kind of play. How many times have I played Mario or Zelda and just clicked the home button, went and done something, and came back and played for a little bit longer? So it's just been an amazing experience with that thing.
This one is unique to me, but how wonderful it's been to have Rocket League at hand at any given time. I had to uninstall it this morning so that I would play other games. Yeah, I'm like, I've got 10 minutes. I can get 2 games of Rocket League in those 10 minutes. So I did. I uninstalled it from the Switch this morning so that I could carry on. Sorry, Joe. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, and you can beat a dead horse on it in Skyrim.
And in Zelda. There's 2
Yeah.
where you can kill your horse and turn it into horse meat.
There you go.
Or you can name your horse meat.
I never.
Or you can name your horse. Well, you can name your horse Skyrim, or maybe you can kill it in Zelda. I don't know.
There's plenty. You can name your horse Joe Dirt. You can name. I had an all black horse with a white mane, and I named it Whitey. So I mean, you can name it whatever you want to.
But it's been pretty amazing what they've done. Nintendo, I remember when we started the blog, I think I wrote an article about the Wii U and how it was great, but it's obviously not the best thing. But Nintendo was still going to be Nintendo regardless. We just had to wait on it, and it was a while, but we finally got Nintendo at its best, being innovative and trying different stuff and not trying crazy stuff. Somebody was talking about the Wii U being like a prototype that should have never been released. It was like so happened somebody just didn't understand that this wasn't for release. They just manufactured it. Somebody gave it okay, so it was very. I actually laughed out loud at work. Everybody looked at me real weird because that's exactly what it was.
2 points.
Somebody called it Nintendo's Dreamcast.
I was going to say, is that a bigger whoops than the Virtual Boy? I'm thinking no, but
no, they need to bring that back.
Oh God!
2 points. One is I can't like the Nintendo U or Wii U. That was about 5 years.
4.
4. It didn't even seem that long either. Like
it sold 4 million in 4 years.
And then
it released the year before the PS4, right?
Yep.
And it should have been one of those consoles you find in somebody's attic, like the Nintendo and the PlayStation one.
Oh, it'll become super rare one day. Everybody like, oh, the Wii U retro video games, most rare system, the Wii U.
You can buy 5 games on it.
Yeah.
You want to play the best version of Legend of Zelda Wind Waker? Have we got a system for you? Sorry.
You want to create your own Mario stages.
Can't upload them though.
Here's a 3DS.
You can't play Katamis though. That's the thing.
So since that was yours, I can contribute one other thing that I just kind of found interesting, since we like to kind of bag on Microsoft once in a while anyway. So, and I know Metacritic has its problems, so I'm not holding this up as anything super significant, but I think it's interesting that there were on Metacritic 11 games that were rated 90 or higher. I already said this year. So, and those 11, and two of them are Breath of the Wild. So technically there are 10, but number 1 was Breath of the Wild. Number 2 was Mario Odyssey. Number 3 was Breath of the Wild for Wii U. Then Persona 5, Divinity, Original Sin 2, Okami HD, What Remains of Edith Finch, Undertale for PS4, even though it came out on PC last year, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, and Bayonetta for PC. So anybody want to guess how many of those games are available on Xbox?
None of them.
Close.
0.
1.
Undertale.
Edith Finch.
Edith Finch.
Edith Finch.
That's it. That I can find. I may be mistaken, but now obviously Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Persona 5, those aren't.
I think Divinity is.
I think Divinity is too, Daniel. I think they released.
Did I make that up, or I might have made that up?
I thought it was.
It just says PC when you click on it, but that doesn't mean.
I'm surprised there's not more though. There was a lot of good indie PC games that came out that a lot of people loved.
Yeah, Divinity Original Sin came out on the Xbox One. Is that the one that they show? Yeah.
Okay, so 2 then.
Yeah. No.
That's not great. But like I said, I know Metacritic has its problems and it's not the be all end all, but that's still you would hope you could get some game that's popular enough that people review it well just because it's popular.
Was Cuphead not on there?
It was not 90 plus. No.
Oh,
that surprises me too.
Kind of surprising there. Yeah. Yeah, I think Microsoft is. I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft doesn't have a console, at least not in like the home console type of way. We've talked about this. We've talked about this in earlier podcasts where I think we all think that they're kind of shifting into a PC type of thing, maybe like a Steam box or something like that. I think they're kind of shifting into that. I just don't think the Xbox, I mean, especially with how the Xbox One has underperformed with all the momentum that the Xbox 360 had in the last console generation, I think they're going to have to find something new to do. And I think with their gaming for Windows and the overlap they're trying to do between PC and Xbox One, I think you're going to see kind of this Xbox One PC kind of hybrid for those hardcore kind of PC gamers, but to have like a box in the living room type of thing. Something that, Valve tried. I don't see a lot of Steam boxes in living rooms. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's where we're going to see Microsoft kind of head. And I think it'd be good for them because they know computers and they know PCs, and I think it's you still kind of wonder why Microsoft even has a video game system, but it is what it is.
Well, let's not forget that they won the console wars last generation. I mean, this is not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this and Sony won. I mean, Sony won PS2, and then they were, down in for the next generation, and now they're back for this generation, and then Nintendo was down last generation. I mean, so yeah, I wouldn't say it's the end of Microsoft and the console war, but
they got to figure it out. And they have.
Yeah, at least for this generation, I don't think they're.
No, I don't think they're done for this generation, but I think the next generation you're going to see they're going to have to evolve into something that they know. And I think the hinting at the PC and the Xbox, there's a lot of games you can play with, but overlap. They can play with each other. I think they're going to head towards more of like a PC console hybrid.
But you're getting in dangerous territory there too, because is the avid PC gamer really going to buy a console that they're going to probably cost $1,000?
Well, I think they're trying to appeal to the avid PC gamer because they're putting so much hardware into the Xbox One X. Like they're saying, it's the best hardware, it's the prettiest game. I think even though I've read where Xbox said, this isn't the case, I think they are going to make a console that you can replace parts. I do. I think that's the next step up for Microsoft. And I think it's sooner rather than later.
But what is it not be able to run with? I mean, you don't have a small motherboard in it to begin with, so why is it not be able to?
Well, computer parts get smaller every year. I mean, I think that they could work it around. I mean, the Xbox One is a pretty big system anyway, so I'm sure they could do some other things with it. What I'm saying, at some point, they're going to have to change what they're doing because I think one of the biggest reasons Microsoft fails is because they just don't have the IPs. I mean, if you look at the 360, it was built on third party. And I think we can all agree on that. You have Halo, and Gears of War, but there really was nothing else there. And I think in this transition, you're seeing like Sony and Nintendo, whose first party stuff is really good, and they're creating really good content with their first party stuff. They're starting to separate themselves from Xbox because Xbox just doesn't have the IPs. Like nobody cares about Gears of War anymore. Halo didn't sell as much as they did. I think Cuphead is one of the best games they've put out because it's different and they could really kind of build on that. But I mean, what other IPs do you care about on Xbox?
I just don't. I think that's a dangerous road to go down. I don't see it prospering for them.
So I do think here's what I think. Okay, so because Daniel mentioned that they won the previous console generation, or at least they started out winning. Sony really gained on them there at the end.
Gained really hard at the end, yeah.
So, and there were several things that I think contributed to Microsoft winning. You guys touched on one, and that was that their first party support was really good. Another one is that they came out a year before PS4 or PS3. That matters, I think.
Lower price point too.
Get a head start. And Sony botched that 2006 E3 press conference when they announced the PS3. This is $600, and you are going to like it.
Yep.
And it took Sony doing something drastic, giving games away every month for free, to start to turn that tide round about 2010, 2011, on top of getting some first party support that they finally started to turn that around. Although, God of War was popular and good. Resistance wasn't, Killzone wasn't.
And letting you play with your friends for free online too.
Yeah.
You got to think Uncharted was released on the PS3.
Uncharted 2 and 3 especially started to turn that tide. Uncharted 3 was 2011. So there were things contributing, several different things, but one I think was Sony realized, we can't just bully our customer into doing, and they're not just going to do as we please. Nintendo's learning that a little bit this year, and I just wonder if Microsoft, I mean, their press conference in 2012, 2013, is that when the consoles came out? 2014,
yes,
whatever that was. That press conference was really bad, and there's because of it. I think it's hard to start off on the wrong foot on a console generation, and they did. I'm not saying they can't recover, but it's going to take something drastic, and they can't just say, well, we're going to give games away for free, because they've done that, but they're behind the 8 ball now.
Yep.
And their competitors are already doing it. They have to come up with something unique, something that it may seem desperate, but it doesn't have to seem desperate. It just has to be significant enough to catch the attention of the consumer, because so far the things they've tried aren't working.
And I think Nintendo has...
and Nintendo's gaining on them.
Right, Nintendo's gaining on them, but Nintendo's also showing that, hey, we're trying to change something. We're doing something different, and successful. I think that's what Microsoft's going to have to figure out. I think Sony, to be quite honest, because of where they're at, they can just put out another console and be fine. But I think that they're going to have to do something different. And I think if you look at the core of what Microsoft is, it's the PC market. And I think that's where they're really going to have to reach out. If they still want to do a home console, I don't know if they still want to do a home console. Even when Microsoft first put it out, I think I've read stories where people are like, why do you want to put a video game console? We're a PC company. And so Xbox has kind of been the redheaded stepchild of Microsoft for quite some time now. And it's going to take something drastic, like you said, Daniel. And I think what they're going to have to do is go out and get the PC gamer. They've already started to do that, like I said, with the overlap, but they're going out and getting games like, Battlegrounds. That's a PC game, and they're trying to draw that PC gamer into that console market, or at least trying to reach some guys that would love to have a souped up PC, can't afford it, but hey, you can play this game on a souped up console that the Xbox One is. So I think they're already trying to reach out and test the waters. Can we get into that PC market, and what we would have to do to kind of bring together the PC and console market? I think that's what's going to be their next step. I think they know the PC market. I think it's just a logical step for them. Now, whether or not how far they go into that, I don't know. But I think that's the logical step. So, yeah. So that's what some of the stories there. We're going to jump into the games now, because we don't want this podcast to be too super long. But we're going to jump into some of the games that we enjoy. And we're just going to jump into it. We're going to talk about Game of the Year. What each of our Game of the Years are going to be. Joe, we'll start with you, man. What is your 2017 Game of the Year?
I'm about to go with PlayerUnknown Battleground. Probably the game that I played the most and enjoyed it. Just the aspect of it, getting to play with friends. 3 different playing modes: single player, team, or duel, and then squad. I've just really enjoyed it. I'm usually not a big shooter guy, but I really did enjoy PlayerUnknown Battleground.
What it's topping a lot of lists, and I think it's the exact same thing you said, was that I'm not a shooter fan, but this is a pretty cool game. What would be your appeal to the non-shooter fan? Like, if you're talking to somebody that's not a non-shooter fan, how would you sell them on this? It's not only your Game of the Year, but something they should play.
I mean, I played Call of Duty. I've played Battlegrounds. I played a lot of different shooters. I think the one thing that I hated in those games is people camping. And this game makes it impossible for someone to sit in the same spot, because you're always moving. And either you have to think ahead of it and get somewhere in the middle of the circle, or you plan and try and find your gear and try to plan ahead to the final circle. But you just can't sit there, and I think that's what appealed to me, is everybody's moving.
I know a lot of people said, like, the quick nature of the game, like, you may be out, but it means something to win and not just respawning. It actually means something to survive. Do you think that appealed to you too, or?
It did. If I get killed, I'm dead. I don't come back. Or if I kill that dude, he's dead. He don't come back.
Right.
And I think that put a whole new kind of competitive nature to it as well. Because you're trying to survive.
To me, it just seemed like it would make every game count more.
It does, and it adds a different nature to it, because it's a shooter, but it's also like a survival game as well, because you're trying not to get killed.
Right.
So I just really enjoyed all the gameplay that I had on it, and I've had quite a few hours on it.
Seemed like it's topping a lot of lists, and really, guys, it's like a phenomenon. I mean, you look at a game that was basically built off of Arma, right? If I'm not mistaken, built off of that, and it just kind of got word of mouth. And next thing you know, it's like breaking Twitch records for the most streams at one time for one game. And it's just, I mean, it's something amazing. And now this guy's releasing it on the Xbox One, and it's man, it's just crazy.
And other games copying it as well, like Fortnite, and you can find a ton of games on the App Store that copy the same type of thing. So
I think some people say that like this is one of those games where people look back, what games changed the industry. This would be it. I mean, just like you said, Joe, there was games that were already out good 6, 7, 8 months to a year that was putting this type of gameplay into their game, and I think that's huge.
I mean, one of the biggest video game makers in Rockstar was trying to put something like it in GTA 5, and it was gaining popularity. So
it's crazy.
It will. I mean, like you said, you will look back, and I think it's kind of like when 007 hit. First person kind of changed, and then Halo hit, and you had another type of a shooter. This is kind of in that same category.
That's cool, man. Good. Congratulations to that guy, man. He's rolling in the dough. Yeah, that's awesome for him, man. Daniel, what's your game of the year, man?
I struggled with this one. I played actually several games this year that I was surprised that when I went back to look at what I'd played. But for me, it came down, and just recently, just within the last month, I'm playing Horizon, and and I was looking back at my text messages, and Andrew had actually told me that I should play it back in July, and I was like, I'm never going to get to that, I mean. And to be honest, I was like, this game, it does look kind of silly to me. I don't really care. But it was on sale, around Black Friday, and I just figured why not, picked it up. And I haven't put it down. And so for me, it's between that and Persona 5. And I feel like my game of the year is Horizon. And I guess I'm surprised that I say that. But it's excellent. I mean, it's really good. Really good. Like the story is good. The main character is fun. She's relatable. I enjoy playing as her. The controls are tight. The battles are a blast without being, like crazy difficult, right? I mean, it's just fun to like take down a machine, or it's fun to kill people with a bow and arrow. And I don't know. I keep thinking that game is better than it has any right to be. And it's definitely better than I ever gave it any credit for. But I think that's my game of the year. I've had a lot of fun with it so far, and I got the platinum just before the new year. But I went ahead and bought the DLC. I'm playing through it because I'm not ready to quit yet. I'm not ready to leave that world yet.
Yeah,
of course you got the platinum.
Of course I did. Yeah, of course. And it was a very good year for platinums.
How many did you get?
In the Robinson household, by the way. So
how many did you get?
I got 22 this year.
Oh Lordy!
Which is only the second time that I've got more than 20 in a year. So pretty good.
That's nice. That's like Steph Curry's step back three. Yeah, I agree with everything you said, Daniel. I think that world in particular was really good. The story was great. Everything about that game, the combat was super fun, which if you'd have told me I would like a game, and I would say probably the best combat I've played all year was with a bow and arrow, because any other game with bow and arrows I hate. Exactly. It was really good. How you kind of crafted your stuff, the freedom it gave you, but didn't give the world seemed big, but it seemed very accessible. Like it didn't seem like it was too big. It gave you a bunch of stuff to do. I mean,
we're never overwhelmed, right? Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. I was overwhelmed in that cauldron with the Thunderjaw. That was pretty rough.
That was pretty, and that's the thing. Like I'd say that the only thing I didn't like about it was there's sometimes where you didn't want to fight, and you kind of had to get through a spot, and it was hard. I found it hard, at least for me, but I suck at video games, to try to get through something silently without tripping something or tripping it. But other than that, even you're like, oh crap, I tripped and I have to fight. 2 minutes into the fight, you didn't care because it was so fun to go up against those things. The Thunderjaw fights were awesome. Like those are some of the best, like gaming moments. I guess some of the best gaming moments I think I've had. And it's just such a good game, man. It's such a good game. And I'm with you, Daniel. I mean, it's a fantastic game, and that was a game that when they first showed the teaser, like what is this game? Like what? Like I'm not really for sure what it is, and then once you get into it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I it's not to say I didn't love Persona 5. I really did. I mean, I think I put I don't remember what I put in, maybe 150 hours into it.
Yeah, you told me it was well over 100. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it was a obscene amount, and I remember my wife telling me how sick she was of me playing that game because, like, especially toward the end, like every time she turned around, like I was either playing on my Vita or I was playing on the TV or somewhere. Like I had that game on, just trying to grind through to the end. But I think that like there were just a few flaws in Persona 5 that made it that it was just a little too long. That there was just a little bit of too much filler that I felt like, I enjoyed Horizon more. So
Horizon doesn't have that. You're right. It doesn't have. There's no. That I can recall. There's no dead spaces, no bad pacing.
Yeah, there's no. It doesn't feel like there's any wasted moments.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, so we got Battleground.
And I want to say one more thing that I played. I guess it counts. The Uncharted standalone game.
I heard that was fantastic.
It is excellent. I mean, the story. It's another Uncharted game. I mean, so the controls are pretty good, but the storyline is great. The characters were perfect. I mean, it was excellent, and it was probably like an 8-hour like game to do everything. Pretty short, but I think that deserves a call out as well because I really enjoyed that.
How easy is that platinum trophy? Can you really get it in 8 hours?
I think it was less than 10.
I
think it was less than 10.
Now I'm interested in that game.
That game came up on a lot of
Uncharted Lost Legacy.
Yeah, that's it. There you go.
Name out there.
Yeah.
That game came up on a lot of most surprising lists. Because I think when it was announced, everybody was like, "Oh man, this is like it was supposed to be DLC, and now they're going to release as a full game. It may not even be as good as an Uncharted game. Don't have Nathan Drake in it." No. And every podcast I've listened, like, no, it's fantastic. Like they really outdone. And I think they put quote unquote the B squad at Naughty Dog. It wasn't like the regular Uncharted squad. And they kind of passed them like, you guys finish this. And apparently the B squad is everybody else's A squad, apparently, because that game seemed to be getting some pretty good stuff going.
They did part ways with the director of Lost Legacy today.
Oh, did they?
Or it was announced today. I don't know if that's when it happened. But yeah.
Yeah, but I would recommend that. That was a blast. And I'm a big fan of the voice actress for Chloe, Claudia Black. She's awesome. So, but they did a great job on that game.
And that game's been going on sale pretty regularly. Even before the holidays, it was down near the $20 range. So I say it's probably going to continue to be one of those good discount. That's not a discount game, but discount price games for quite some time now.
Yeah.
Age-old question, guys. Age-old question. Chloe or Elena?
Elena's the Nathan's girl, right? Is that who? I like Elena.
Nathan's girl.
Chloe kind of got on my nerves a little bit.
Well, if she got on your nerves, she'll be redeemed if you play Lost Legacy.
Gotcha.
No one else is going to answer.
I don't know. I love Elena, but I really liked Chloe in the new game. Like I thought they did a great job with her. So
I like Bruce Campbell's character.
What's his name?
Sully. I know it's not really Bruce Campbell, but I always pictured if they ever made a movie that Bruce Campbell would play Sully.
Yes, perfectly.
That's
I totally agree.
Sully.
Great casting choice, Joe.
Thank you.
I picture it as J.K. Simmons.
Oh, that could be a good one too.
I see that too.
I think their voices sound similar.
Yeah, I can see that.
Now I'm in love with that idea.
We'll have to have an episode where we cast the Uncharted movie. Daniel or Andrew. I think the reason I wait for you
Close
because I
enough.
think mine's going to be. Well, you're both platinum.
Platinum Boy.
The
Number
Platinum Boys. Andrew, as we like to call
Remember
you.
that one time a year ago when we disagreed?
Yeah, and I thought the internet was going to break in half. Oof. I thought we was going to have to get Congress together and back. Whoa, we got to get these guys back on the same page.
Hey, remember that time about 2 years ago that we all disagreed
When was that?
on the movies?
Oh, yeah. Keep bringing up that list. You just can't let it die, can you? Andrew, the reason you're going last because I think my game of the year, even though I've had some internal strife about this, I think we're both going to have the same game of the year. But Andrew, what's your game of the year?
Near Automata. No, it's not. Farming Simulator 2018.
That's it. Mine too. How'd you know?
No, it's Breath of the Wild, and it's not close. Like I've tried to step away, and of course, it's been a few months since I played Breath of the Wild, and give it honest to goodness, true consideration. And I mean, Mario Odyssey would be the only game that came close. You can call me a Nintendo shill if you want to, but man, is Breath of the Wild just like, I don't know if it's a dream game for me necessarily, but man, it's so good. Like I just the exploring, the anywhere and everywhere you go has something there. There's something that you can always do. Every mountain that I've had people ask, well, what's the big deal with the climbing? Why do people make such a big deal about that? Like, what's all the excitement that you can climb anything? What's the big deal? And I struggled to articulate it, but I think what it comes down to is that you see a mountain, you can go climb that mountain, that exact mountain. The one that you saw is, the one that you saw is the one you can go climb. And when you get there, there's a reward. Now, it might be something small, like a Korok seed. It might be a view,
Right.
I don't know what it's going to be. It might be that you get to shield surf down the whole thing. I don't know, but you are going to be rewarded for every little nook and cranny you explore. There's going to be something there, and if you don't see it, you missed it because it's there. And there were just so many great little moments. I was trying to think of that. Actually, let me just throw out here, I think a good discussion that we could have next is your favorite moment in a game of the year. So maybe be thinking about that while I wax cold about, that's not the right word, while I talk about Breath of the Wild. But just exploring. And then, what was really cool was in the first DLC, I don't know. Have you touched any of the DLC?
I haven't touched any of the DLC
so
yet.
In the first DLC, they released that thing that somehow the game has been tracking from the beginning, every step you took, everywhere you went. And so you can basically zoom all the way out on the map, and it will just draw your path everywhere you went, all the way around the map.
Oh, that is so cool.
Up to 200 hours. Like, it remembers that much time in the game of steps you've taken and places you've gone. And then at the end, you can zoom out and you can see, oh, I haven't been in that little corner. And, oh, I zigged when I should have zagged right there. And I accidentally did a circle around that area. And I never followed this path. And so there's all these new areas that you can go and find just because of this neat little feature that they stuck in there. They didn't advertise that. They didn't really talk. Well, they did advertise it a little bit. Which is a cool little little feature that gave you the opportunity to see what you've missed so that you don't have to go and Google it.
Right.
So I have to search and see, well, what have I missed? Because I know there's stuff I've missed in that game. I know there's stuff that, for one, I know there's shrines I haven't gotten because I've just tried to force myself onto other things.
Yep.
I could say some negative things about it, but this isn't the time for that because it's Game of the Year talk.
Right.
But that's mine.
It's mine too. And I did the same thing, Andrew, that you did. I kind of took a step back. And the three games that I played the most of this year was Zelda. I just finished up Mario, and then Horizon. And just between Horizon and Zelda, I think I ended up clocking it around 160 hours just between those two games. Because I think I got like 58 or 60 in Zero Dawn, but I think I was 95, 100 in Zelda. So those two was the ones it was going to come down to, and you can make it so many, like the combat alone in Zero Dawn is probably one of my favorite experiences over the last year. The menu system's much better, but when you look at Zelda and what it does, and I know it's not just about climbing the mountain. And by the way, if that was one of the things that if Horizon wasn't released a week before Zelda, and you didn't have to put up with walking around mountains and kind of hopping up stuff, that game would be almost the perfect game for me. Like it was that crazy. And that sucks
I was genuinely sad that Zelda
I was too.
Horizon for me in that way.
Yeah. And it's hard not, and it's such a big thing that Zelda does in the sense that, just like you said, Andrew, that you can do anything your mind can come up with. And we've seen so many clips of people doing crazy things in Zelda. I didn't even think that was possible, but everything is possible in that world. It's just fun, and the combat's good enough where it's not that big of a deal. I have some qualms with the menu, but it's listen, when you're looking at menu systems as something to be negative about a game, then you know that game is really good. And Zelda is absolutely fantastic, and just the exploration and even the story, even though it was very much, I think some people had some qualms about the story, it made you want to know more. And that second DLC came out. I'll definitely get the second DLC because I think it's the story of the Guardians and some of the other things that it kind of hints at. The story is the world. Like the story is the exploration and discovery. That's what the story is. And then you have this mission that you have to do to save the princess, but everything else is the whole world is driven by this narrative. And I think it's from the subtle music, all of a sudden the music plays, there's not this big epic, big soundtrack. It's just a little note every so often that plays, where you'll enter a certain spot and the music will play.
Or the combat music.
Combat music,
which
right?
is different depending on what enemies you're fighting.
Exactly.
And it's not different completely, like the melody's the same, but the other instruments are added in when you're fighting a Lionel or a Hinox versus when you're just fighting Bokoblin, on and on and on.
And like the first time you see a dragon, you're like, oh, what was that? Or, it's just, there's so many great moments in that game where it just, and the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that's a game of the year. Like I love Horizon. I'll talk about Horizon until I'm blue in the face. But Zelda is just something, just talking about it, man, I kind of want to play it. Like I want to go back into that world and kind of play it. And it's an amazing achievement. And Nintendo turned everybody's, now we'll see a bunch of games that you can climb mountains and do whatever you want to, because Nintendo is like, let's make this a Zelda game. Let's make this different. Or even harken back to old school where you're just kind of discovering things and kind of making your own map and doing your own thing. It's truly maybe the first open world game in the sense of that, yeah, you can do pretty much anything, and it's fun, and the story's good enough where you want to see what happens at the end. The battles are great, but man, it's just something else. Like when they announced it, I never thought it was going to be this, and I thought it was just an awesome game all the way around.
Yeah, and it's a small thing, but when you see it happen, it I don't know, it opens your eyes a little bit to it. It's just the it sounds like a marketing thing, like, oh, this mountain that you see, you can go to it. When I heard that, I was like, okay, that's fine.
Right.
Like, I've seen backgrounds before. Yeah, you can see Death Mountain from Hyrule Castle in Ocarina of Time. What's the big deal? But it wasn't really Death Mountain. It was, a painting in the backdrop, or it wasn't the actual living Death Mountain. In Breath of the Wild, it's Death Mountain. Like, you see that tower, you see that guardian flying around that tower, you see whatever you see, the draw distances. I don't know how they pull it off. I don't know what they did, but you're actually seeing the actual, there's no loading screen in between. There's no, I don't know what they did, and wouldn't begin to understand if they tried to explain it to me. But it's just, it's truly a world you're living in. And that actually brings up, because we're done, right, with Game of the Year, that brings up another point that I wanted to mention, because Zelda does that well and Horizon does that well. And that is setting you up in this world. Like, it makes sense that there's not this sprawling, beautiful soundtrack that we're used to in Zelda, because Link lost.
Yeah.
Like 100 years ago, Link died because he lost, and the world was destroyed because of it. So there shouldn't be some soaring soundtrack playing while he's riding a horse around Hyrule. Everything is dead or dying. Like, it's bad. Like, Zelda is barely holding it together in Hyrule Castle, and that feeling of it's not as hopeless as, say, a Dark Souls, of course. But they still do a good job of keeping it, Zelda light, but also like, hey guys, this is not a good world to be living in.
Right.
It's not great. But I wanted to throw out a special shout out to Horizon, because I didn't say many positive things while you guys were talking about it. The opening of Horizon.
Oh, it's amazing.
20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you know what's going on in that world. You have been set up. You understand, oh, these people are bigots, and these people are, whatever. And, Ross running out onto that peak and giving Aloy her name, and almost getting in trouble for that, however that worked. I don't remember. Just, and then the scene with her and the kids, and she doesn't understand why people won't talk to her and what's going on, and the focus and all this stuff that goes on. It sets you in that world. You are in this world. You understand, maybe not all of it, of course, because you haven't found most of it yet, but you've got a great idea of what's going on in the world. You don't know the history of it, but you know the present of it in 30 minutes at most. And they do that's such an incredible accomplishment that they deserve a lot of credit for, because it's just such a fantastic opening. I liked that opening more than Zelda, for sure.
Yeah. I think they both serve their purposes in different ways, but that opening from the get-go, you're like, first of all, holy crap, this is a beautiful game, and then it just sucks you in from there. And it's just that opening, maybe I think probably maybe my favorite opening in quite some time, in the sense of what it does to introduce you, like you said, Andrew, the world, everything around it. It does a really good thing that I wish more games did, was, if you're going to do a tutorial on how things work, how about you put it into something like that? Let's add this to the narrative and add this to where you're just not going through the motions. Because even the narrative for combat, or the tutorial for combat, was part of the game, like Ross teaching you how to hunt, and why it's important to hunt, and why in this world it's important to hunt. And it just added more to it. Just every little thing. And with Zelda too, every minute detail, it just seemed like the developers sat down, like, we have to make sure there's no holes here. Like, this world needs to be filled out completely, and they just did a great job.
Yeah, and they're both perfect openings, because Horizon sets you up in that world and does all that. Zelda does that too, just by saying, basically a new version of "It's dangerous to go alone. Take this." You basically get that, which is, here's this world, go into it. And then Horizon has a bigger job in setting you up in that world, and does it just as well.
Just two fantastic games.
Yeah, I mean, and Horizon has to set you up. Zelda has to be familiar in a sense, right? I mean, but the Horizon has to be has to set up this completely new, never before seen world.
So well,
So
they had a bigger job, and they did it very well.
And the way that they tied in, I mean, obviously Zelda is my game of the year, Andrew's game of the year, but the way that Horizon introduces you to that world, and that very messy kind of geopolitical type of thing that they got going on with the religion and the cities, and setting up that history on what came before, and being able to talk to all these people and then give you a little bit of that, and it was just super fleshed out. And Andrew, I don't know how much, and Daniel, I don't know how much you read, like the stuff you found, like the logs and stuff. But if you go into that, it's well written. It's just not throwaway stuff. I mean, the narrative for that, and to be able to set that up is I mean, it was pretty amazing how well that was all kind of connected. But definitely, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either one.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, you're not asking.
No, I was going to say you was about to speak, so I was going
I was going to ask, what games that you didn't get to play would you like to go play?
Man, there's a lot of them. Golf Story. I've got it on the Switch. It's loaded up, ready to go. A golfing RPG. Who knew? I don't know, man. There's just so many good games out there. Man, Andrew, what about you, man? Is there any of them that?
I'm trying to force feed myself Xenoblade Chronicles right now. It's not working, but I'm trying.
Daniel, what about you,
Just
man?
because I have a significant backlog that I would like to get through, but
me
Xenoblade
too.
is on that backlog. But it's 60 hours, and convincing myself to jump into a 60-hour game when I've got a backlog as long as I've got is not. It's tough.
Yeah. Daniel, what about you, man? Was there anything that you didn't get to play you wanted to play?
I think I've mostly just been reading about it here the last month or so. But I think one game that I want to try out that I haven't had a chance is Nier Automata. I'd like to try that one. It seems to be a fun game, and I guess I feel like I'm a little bit more open now because I never expected to like Horizon, and I love it. And now I'm like, what else would I love? You know? so I'm looking into that game. I may pick that up sometime in the next month once I finish off the Horizon DLC.
I will say this because I had a few days before Christmas off, and then of course Christmas, and I took that time to play and beat Nier. And I'll say this: the hype that it's getting in the game journalist circles, I think, is a little overblown. I enjoyed it; it was good. The world they created in that one was very interesting, but I didn't get what all the fuss has been about.
That's the sense that I kind of get, is that the story was real good and the world was built. It's kind of an ugly game. The combat was all right, but the world itself is just kind of very bland. And when you take a game like that with a good story, but the world isn't as interactive and you don't get explored as much, it's hard to put that game up against something like a Zelda or even a Horizon that we've talked about is so fleshed out that you want to go everywhere. Not only do you want to know the story, but you want to interact with that world. And from what I got from Nier, even from the people that loved it, was like, yeah, it's a lot of grays, it's a lot of stairwells, it's a lot of different things that maybe doesn't. The story's great and the action's great, but it just didn't lend itself very well to exploration or even wanted to be part of that world.
There's a desert, and somehow it's even kind of gray. Like I don't know. I don't know what that's about.
Wow.
I made a joke with some people today. It's almost like they took their entire design budget, like the entire whole design budget, and put it into the characters.
Yeah, that's what I.
Now the character designs are gorgeous, and I'm not just saying that because they're ladies walking around in high heels and lingerie, but like they're very well designed characters. 9S, I almost said 9B. That's all right. 9S is a cool looking dude. The two main bosses in your first playthrough are pretty cool looking. It's not just 2B that's been the face of that game, but it's like they spent all their energy designing those characters and didn't and forgot, like, oh yeah, they have to run around in something.
Well, I think it's just, I don't think they had a huge budget from what I read, and I think sometimes you look at it and it's like, let's just make something look really good and just hope it looks so good you kind of ignore the rest of it. And that's what I kind of read in a lot of reviews. Like, don't worry about what the background looks like. They put all their money in the characters, and they look pretty awesome. So
they did a good job. They really did do a good job with those characters. So that's not complete like making fun, but
for me.
And I will. Can I throw in one more?
Yeah,
I want to play. I want to play Resident Evil 7. I heard a lot of good things about that. I'd like to play that one.
For me, I would probably. And I know it's a golf story, but there were so many good indie games that were released that really kind of made me interested in a lot of things. I mean, obviously, you look at something like Golf Story, which is a very weird thing. Stardew Valley, it's just something that I wanted to play, and it came to the Switch, so I'll probably end up getting that and kind of messing around with that a little bit. You look at games like I have it over here, and it's a weird name, but it's by the guy that did Mega Man 2 through 6, which his name escapes me all of a sudden. I usually know it, but it's like a kind of a shoot 'em up, kind of run and gun type of indie game, which really looks nice. I actually bought the physical copy of it because I was like, I think I kind of want a physical copy of this. It's such a good time for independence, and I thought a couple years ago it was the best time, but now you're getting so many quirky kind of weird games, and they're not super long. You look at a game like Hollow Knight, which is coming to the Switch, that came out on PC this year. Metroidvania, really art, kind of an artsy type of game, that'll come to Switch next year. So there's a lot of great games that's out there that I just never get because of the big AAA games that were released this year. I never really got a chance to play, so I'm really looking forward to going back and playing the new Shovel Knight add-ons, and Golf Story I'm looking forward to playing. And there's a Mummy Demastered that is maybe the best movie game in quite some time that looks really cool. But it's just the independents have just really been on fire lately, and I can't wait to kind of go back and kind of surf through them there.
So my backlog is pretty long since you bring this up. And Daniel, I think you want to play Gravity Rush 2 as well, or did you get to that this year?
I didn't get to it. I got it. I picked it up on sale, but I haven't even taken it out of the shrink wrap.
Yeah, I bought it digital, so I've got it downloaded, but I'm not going to get to it anytime soon, I don't think, because I want to play that. I want to play Uncharted now, thanks to Daniel's recommendation. I want to play Cuphead, even though I don't have a way to right now. I want to play Ys 8, Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which I mentioned, South Park, The Fractured Butthole. Such a great title.
That's like one of the best titles ever.
It's just perfect. What Remains of Edith Finch, I will get to. Danganronpa 3, Shovel Knight. I'm kind of wanting to play Sonic Mania after hearing some people talk about
me
it.
too.
And Mario plus Rabbids, which I have that, and I think if I can't get myself to play Xenoblade, I'm going to go with Mario Rabbids. And I do have Golf Story as well. And Blossom Tale, which is a downloadable indie Switch game that it's not a Zelda, it's a Zelda clone, basically a 2D Zelda clone. And 2D Zelda, I think, is my favorite game type of all the game types. I think 2D Zelda finds that perfect mix of adventure that I like, and just enough combat, but also really the 2D setup allows for more interesting puzzle solving, or at least the kind of puzzles I like to solve. And I don't know what else, but I just like that style. So I do want to play Blossom Tale, which is an indie Switch game.
And I want to play Undertale. I actually want to get it. And
Undertale.
Play.
Yeah.
Undertale looks like a really cool game as well. Yeah. Joe, what about you, man?
There's a couple that I'd like to play. I'd like to play Last Day of June. I'd like to play the Hellblade game.
Oh, Hellblade, I've heard good things about.
Night in the Woods is another one I'd like to play. Of course, I didn't get to play Horizon yet, so that's another game that I'd like to play to see what you all, picked it. Wolfenstein, I know you have your little thing about it being too violent, but I'd like to play, see what it's all about.
That game sounds insane.
Yeah,
like they went into they went into an insane asylum and was like, okay, guys, here's the setting. Give us your crazy ideas, because Giant Bomb had we talk about best moment. We'll talk about here in a minute. But Giant Bomb actually, when they did best moment this year, they had so many Wolfenstein moments that they actually broke off into another category. That's how insane that game was.
I'll play Resident Evil 7. I'm right there with Daniel on that one. And then I'm going to have to get me a Switch to play the new Legend of Zelda game.
Yeah, if you haven't played that one, that's definitely, yeah.
And then the one thing that I want to check out, I've not played it yet, but Shadow of Mordor, I just want to check out. They have that cool feature, the Nemesis thing that they added in, where it brings your most hated enemy over with you to the new game from the old game.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was really cool, like a little cool add-on feature type of thing that they've done to kind of continue that on.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that, I mean, like I said, this has been a year of great releases and just overall just quality titles, whether it be AAA or indie. Two more topics will kind of go. I don't want to harbor, but Andrew, you brought up a good one, best moment in a game. I think that's pretty cool because I have mine already set up. Daniel, what's your best moment in a game?
Ooh, you'll have to skip me.
Okay,
Let me think.
Joe, what
About it.
about you?
Oh, come on, man! I warned you and everything.
Probably.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I think you
weren't
stepped away
listening.
maybe when he
Yeah,
said
you
that.
might not.
Because I don't remember you saying that.
Joe, what about you, man? What's your favorite moment in the game?
Probably get my first chicken dinner in Pugba.
Yeah. That's been a lot. Yeah, when you get that,
Yeah.
that's pretty good work. I know. I remember when you got it, you was like, "Winner, winner, chicken dinner." You texted me, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" But yeah, seems like that's a pretty hard thing to do. So that's cool.
Yeah, it is.
Mine is God. There's so many great moments in Mario Odyssey. I think, and I could pick any of them, but the Donkey Kong level was something that I did not expect when you go through, and these may have some spoilers, so please, if you don't want to know anything, but when you beat the New Donk City stage, you go in. They can ask you, do you want to go to the party and party with us? And if you say yes, it goes up to this rooftop thing. But it's basically, if you don't know, there's parts in Odyssey that are basically kind of like a link between two worlds. It goes 8-bit and it goes flat up against it. So you play old Mario and it's part of the level. And this part, when you go to the party, is like, hey, take this challenge and you jump in the warp. And it's basically like this longer version of Donkey Kong. And it's this newer kind of Donkey Kong. And you're playing in the old 8-bit. And Shauna had played it. She said, oh, you'll love this part. I didn't know which one that she was talking about. And as soon as it popped through, I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. She goes, what?
Yeah.
You at the Donkey Kong part? And I was like, yes, I'm at the Donkey Kong part. And it was pretty sweet. That game has a lot of really cool moments, but that one was just a really cool moment to kind of have that kind of old Donkey Kong feel back. It was pretty neat.
So yeah, that was mine as well. So since you took because man, it's just such a cool.
It's awesome. I had a big grin on my face. It was awesome.
You can go back and replay it, and I did that just because I was like, man, this was so good. I'm going to go do it again. And then I found a hidden moon when I did that, so it was like win. But the song is so good.
The song is good.
It's that's such a great moment. My other Mario moment, and I think it beats out what I'm going to talk about because it's at the end, and I don't want to spoil the end of Mario. I think the New Donk City part, which is about halfway, you can get away with, but I don't want to say what happens.
Yeah, because that's an awesome moment too.
At the end, but the end of Mario Odyssey, like the fallout from the Bowser fight. Let's just put it that way, because spoiler alert, you fight Bowser at the end of the Mario game. The fallout from that is just so cool. Shauna would agree with me if she was watching, because she beat it, right?
She did. She beat it before I did. Yeah.
My nephews told me they were going home after church last night to beat it, and I was pretty excited for them, but I didn't tell them what was going to happen. So anyway, that would be probably my number 2. My number 3 would be Eventide Isle on Breath of the Wild.
That was pretty cool.
Which, basically is the entire game boiled down to a 30-minute to 1 hour segment. And I think I've told the story on here again in the past, so I won't rehash it this time. But basically, you're wandering around the world as you do, and I saw this island off in the distance. And most of the time, there's not islands off in the distance in this game because there's either a cliff that you fall off of, or there's endless ocean in this world. That's how they wall you in, basically, because there are no walls anywhere else in the rest of that game. You can go do what you want when you want. So when I saw that island, I was like, well, I'm going to go out there. So I busted my glider out and just barely had enough stamina to make it. And when you land, this voice says, you have gained a lot of power in your journey. I'm taking it away and making you do this challenge without it. You need to basically you're probably full of yourself right now because you've been gaining all this power. Let's see how you remember like it was back in the day. So it takes all your hearts away. I think maybe it doesn't, but it takes all your stuff, everything but your runes. So you can still use your magnetic power and all that. And the experience I had on that island trying to basically again the game the entire game distilled back down into a 30-minute to 1 hour segment where you're killing bokoblins with tree branches again because you lost your great flame sword or your whatever sword you've been using, and so you killed that bokoblin and now you've got a boko club and you've got to deal with that. Just building yourself up and working through the challenges stripped of your power that you've gotten used to over ever how many hours it's been since before you found Eventide Isle, which could be 10, could be 5.
Right.
I don't know. It depends on what you did, how you found it, but it was just such a cool moment and unexpected. If you know that it's coming, it takes away from it a little bit, but just to have discovered that organically was just such a cool experience.
Cool. Yeah, I did the same thing, Andrew. I discovered just, hey, let's see how to get out there. And it took me a while to get out there, but once you did, it was like, holy crap, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, and when I did it, I was so excited that I wanted to tell people about it. I had a coworker that was playing, and I said, I don't want to tell you anything about this, but go to this area and you'll see an island and just go do it so that I can talk to you. Like just trying to be as vague as possible while also getting someone to do it so I could talk to him about it.
Daniel, what about you, man?
So there were several, I can't really go into mine because I think they'd be spoilers for you all, but there were several set pieces in Uncharted that were really excellent. Several just like standout, typical Naughty Dog moments. And there was a great moment, or several great moments in Persona, but there was one in particular that was set up early, and it was a big payoff for me personally. I felt like when it finally got revealed, and I can't go into it because you guys haven't beat it yet, but that's as far as I could go.
So what about, this will be the last question for the night. What game are you looking forward to in 2018 that you know is going to come out? What game are you guys really looking forward to in this coming year? Daniel, what about you, man?
Just typed in new releases in 2018.
I'll go because I'm going to do a corny answer. I really mean it, but it's one that's not got a lot of thought into it because I'm probably more excited about Spider-Man, but that's going to be your answer. So I'm going to leave it to
probably.
You. So I will say I am super pumped, as sad as it is, for the Shadow of the Colossus remake to come out later this month. I'm so excited to replay that game.
Is it this month or 1st of February?
Let's see.
I think it's February 2nd, I think I saw, because I looked it up when you told me about it.
Colossus remake, enter. I should have typed release date. Anyway, whenever it is, I played it back in 2012. You're right, February 6, 2018. So about the time this podcast goes up is when Shadow of the Colossus will come out. He's mad, but he won't say anything because he's afraid it'll be true.
It won't be true.
I'm super excited about.
It'll be February 5th when it'll come out, not 6th.
I said right about. I'm super excited. I played Shadow, the original HD remake on PS3 back in I think I played it in 2011, which was such a good year for games. That's a topic we should have discussed, but it's too late now. I played it back in 2011 when that remake with Eco came out, and man, it's such a good game. I can't wait to go through it again, but I don't have a PS3 anymore, so I have to wait until this remake comes out. However many times it's been remade.
Only once, so
I know.
Remake times 2.
Well, so you do HD the first time, and then you call it remaster the second time.
Remaster the second time.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Mine is Spider-Man. I mean, I think that the more I read about that game, the more I think it's going to be really good. I think the best Spider-Man game was back on the PS1. I think that game was so cool with all the suits you could get, and just the storyline in general was very, very goofy, kind of comic booky. The controls were great. Spider-Man controlled great. This one, when you play the Arkham games, you're like, this feels like Batman, but man, this really feels like Spider-Man. Like some of the stuff you could do, like jumping around real quick stuff. Yeah, it's Batman, but could you imagine doing the flips and stuff with Spider-Man? And so I'm super stoked to get a good Spider-Man game that's going to be hopefully one we remember for a long time. And I think that it's going to be really cool. I love the team that's on it. I think they got it. I think they every article I read with them talking about it, they seem to really get the character, what the world, what they want to do with it. And the more gameplay footage I see, the more like, oh man, this is going to be really good. So hopefully it lives up to the hype. But that's definitely the 2018 game that I'm looking forward to the most. Joe, what about you, man?
Go ahead, Daniel.
I think for me, it's going to be God of War. I'm curious. I'm very curious to see if that game, can shift away from what God of War has been and do something completely new. And I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's probably the one I'm most looking forward to seeing. Though there are some games I'm looking forward to playing. The Detroit Become Human, that'll be out sometime next year.
Rad. Yeah.
I generally like those games. Supposedly Red Dead Redemption is going to be out next year, so we'll see about that. But I think
rumor has it they're putting it on the Switch.
Okay, but I think of the games that I know is going to be out, I think God of War is the one that I'm most curious about to see how it works.
Daniel, I've never been a big God of War. I don't think I've ever played a God of War game. It just never appealed to me. I didn't like and a lot of big things. Kratos, I don't like Kratos. I think he's a jerk.
Yeah,
I don't like
terrible.
it. I've never. He's terrible. He's a terrible guy to play with. But when they brought this one out, I thought, man, this is like a complete different tonal shift. And I think I'm interested to see why the shift and how it happened. If they're going to tie it into the other games, what happened. But that game looks gorgeous. That may be one of the best looking games I've seen. But I'm with you, Daniel. I think the tonal shift has kind of got me interested in it because it is such a departure from what I hated versus what I'm seeing now. Joe, what about you, man?
I've got a couple. I just want to make sure I'm not steal anybody's. I really think Anthem looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's not coming out this year.
And then there's a game called Sea of Thieves that I'd like to play on PC. Monster Hunter World is another one that I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's not just a Nintendo title now is pretty cool. But I think, if it comes out this year, I think the big one would be Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, if it comes out this year, I don't know. They keep teasing it, but I don't know if it'll come out this year.
I would believe that would come out before I would believe that
Anthem.
Yeah. I could be dead wrong, of course, but I would think Kingdom Hearts 3 has a better shot.
Well, it's been in development longer, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, there's just so many good games coming out. I didn't mention Fire Pro Wrestling was announced for the PS4, which is super, super awesome for wrestling fans. So maybe we'll get a good wrestling game this year. We sure didn't get one last year.
Hey, speaking of long development cycles, Daniel, did you ever get to play Final Fantasy 15? Did you ever play it?
No, but I did pick it up on Black Friday.
Cool. I asked because I kept thinking when it would go on sale, $30 is my price point. And then it was $30, and I was like, I guess it's 20.
Yeah, no. I was the same way.
But then it was 20, and I was like, I guess I'm never buying this game.
Yeah.
That's just, it kept happening. Like, there's too many games that came out this year.
Yeah, I know
what it comes down to. And that's
the exact same feeling.
Although they keep updating it, more and more little features keep getting added to that game. So props to Square for doing that. But it's probably because they don't know if they'll ever release another Final Fantasy game again.
2017, the year of the backlog.
Yeah.
Y'all want to know?
That's 2019.
Y'all want to know what's cute? Is some of these people actually list Last of Us 2 on here. That's not coming out this year. And speaking of zombie games, What's that? Last Days? Is that the name of it?
Yeah.
Is that the Sony?
Days gone.
Days Gone. Days Gone. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that looks
Last Days, his
pretty
Pentecostal
decent.
preacher came out in there for a minute.
Wasn't that the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie too? What was the name of that? That was called Last Days too, right?
That was called End of Days.
End of Days. We're getting there. We're getting
Last Days 2, you mean there's a sequel for Last Days?
All right, guys.
I agree with you, though, Joe. Days Gone looks cool.
Yeah, Days Gone looks really cool.
I think
the
it'll
fact
come out this year, too.
the one thing that bothered me about The Last of Us was the animals. Like there was no animals. There was a rabbit and a deer, I think we saw, and giraffes. I think was the animals that we saw.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, geez, man.
Oh, I'm sorry, but
You spoiled a 5-year-old game for somebody.
But the trailer or the gameplay that I've watched for Days Gone, spoiler alert, and so I'll warn you this time, has a freaking zombie bear in it and zombie wolves. Like, how awesome is that?
Yeah, it looks cool.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for taking time out to talk about some video games from last year. I hope you the listener find it pretty entertaining. But yeah, it was a great year for games, and I think that this year will be wrote about for many years to come in terms of the quality and just the things that changed the gaming industry in terms of release hardware or games or whatever. It's just such a great year for video games in general. So so for Andrew, for Dan, for Yeti, I'm your editor-in-chief, Aaron, and yeah, we're out of here.